Okay, are we recording? Hi. Um, I didn't think I was actually going to do a knitting video, but I was experimenting with these stitches, and I came across something that I couldn't find any reference to other people doing it online, at least not the way that I'm doing it, and I couldn't even find reference to the technique that I'm using. I don't presume to have invented something new, but if I did, I'm totally calling this the Walker stitch. Anyway, this is the result that you get when you use this stitch. It is a very coherent, nice fishnet pattern. It's stretchy and loose, um, with just really clean cells, and it ends up looking much more distinctly like fishnet. It doesn't spring all the way shut, it just kind of hangs there. Um, it's not as lacy as a lot of the other lace stuff that I've seen online, and it's real easy to do. So I'm going to assume that you know some basic stitching here. So we will start. I've already done a bunch, as you can see, but the best way to do this is to cast on an odd number of stitches. You're actually working with an even repeat in the pattern, but you want it to be an odd number so that you can stagger the evenness, or else you'll end up with columns instead of a fishnet lattice. So anyway, I'm going to slip the first stitch just for the neatness of edging, but you can choose to knit it or whatever as you prefer. And then I'm going to knit the second stitch because I am working on the right side. You do knits on the right side and purls on the wrong side, as with stockinette. Now here's where things get interesting. You see my next two stitches here. I'm going to knit the space between those two stitches and pull my yarn through the front here, which has just added a stitch. So every time we do that, we're going to knit the next two stitches together. I'm going to knit them together through the back so that the stitch twists around and keeps it nice and tight. Then we pull that off. So again, I knit the space between the next two stitches, pull it through, pull it through, but don't slip any stitches off the needle there. Just pull that yarn through, and then knit the next two stitches together through the back. Like that. So knit between, together through the back, knit between, I'm going to be careful not to actually knit that stitch. Knit the stitch space between the stitches, and then knit the next two together through the back. Between the stitches, together through the back, between the stitches, together through the back, between the stitches, together through the back. I probably should have used a shorter row for this video, but that's okay. I'll just between the stitches, together through the back, between the stitches, together through the back, between stitches, together through the back. Sometimes it can be difficult to snag both the stitches when going in from the back. There we go. Between the stitches, together through the back. I'm working with this. This is a worsted weight yarn on size 15 or 10 millimeter circular needles. This makes a nice, crazy open fishnet. I work on circular needles almost all the time, even though I'm not working in the round, because I don't like having to leverage a long needle. Okay, almost to the end here, and then I can show you how to finish the row. So, in between, together through the back, and then you'll end up with just a one stitch on the needle. Just knit it normally through the front like you normally would. And then turn your work over to the wrong side. And you can see that I love how this stitch looks. I love that fishnet. So now we're going to do the purl side, which is quite predictable. We're going to slip the first stitch. Again, this is a preference. You don't have to slip the first stitch, but I like to for neatness. And then purl the second one. The first two stitches on each row are not part of the fishnet. They're just sort of the edging. So just purl them or knit them as called for on whatever side you're on. Now this is the purl side, so we're going to purl the space between the next two stitches. Pull it through, but don't pull anything off the needle. And then purl these next two stitches through the back. Just like before, except we're purling the space between the stitches. And then we're purling the next two stitches together through the back. So always work through the back of the stitch to make sure that the net twists nice and tight. And purling together through the back is tricky. To be honest, I kind of wish that you didn't have to purl through the back of these, because it's always hard to get the needle in there. But you can always give the knitting a little bit of a tug if you need to open up that stitch a bit more. I'll just grab it there and slip those through. So, purl the space between the stitches, and purl the next two together. Purl the space between, purl the next two together. Space between, next two together. Space between. Next two together. Space between. Next two together. So I was specifically unable to find reference to any technique that involved knitting into the space between stitches on the active row. Like knitting between live stitches, I suppose. So I don't know if there's a better proper name for that technique. If there is, I'd love to know it so that I can refer to it properly when telling people about this particular pattern. But I have not seen a good pattern or video explaining how to knit fishnet. I've seen lots of crochet, but no knit. And this one is fairly easy. So, oops. So again, purl between stitches, purl the next two together. Between stitches, purl the next two together, between stitches, the next two together, and then we're left with one stitch. Just purl it normally. Oopsie, so you can see it sits on that needle very loosely. It just kind of slid toward the middle. And there you have it, some very loose, nice fishnet stitch. Again, remember to cast on an odd number of stitches. You want to start every row with 2 edge stitches, and you want to end every row with 1. normal stitch, so that you stagger your pattern to get this lovely lattice. So thanks for watching. Bye.